Hello and welcome to NC Continental Prime, coming to you live from our studio in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Benga Aborowa, and these are the headlines at this hour. $7 million bounty placed on Al-Qaeda's Algerian leader. Thousands demand justice for victims of anti-government protest in Khartoum. And 9 die in Ghana mine flood as rescue efforts continue. We'll bring you all the details shortly. We begin the news in the north of the continent, where there's a bounty on the Algerian leader of the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda. The United States Department is offering a reward of $7 million for information leading to the location or identification of Al-Qaeda's Northern Africa region branch leader. Algerian Abu Ubaida Yusuf al-Nabi is the leader of the Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, who took over in November last year following the death of his predecessor, Abdel Malek Drukder, during a French operation in Mali. The department noted that the head of Al-Qaeda's Northern Africa region had pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda's leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, as Akim's leader. It says the group is responsible for the abduction and killing of Americans. The State Department listed al-Nabi as a specially designated global terrorist in 2015 and was placed on the UN sanctions list in 2016. Thousands of people in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, have been marching to demand justice for those killed in anti-government protests 2 years ago. Security forces closed the main roads leading to the army headquarters ahead of the demonstration. Campaigners say at least 128 people were killed in June 2019 when armed men violently dispersed a protest camp outside their headquarters. The crowd had been there for weeks, calling for civilian rule after ousting of Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir. Now, from the north to the west, 9 miners have died after a pit in which they were working was flooded following a heavy downpour in Ghana, northeastern Ghana. It's not known exactly how many miners are trapped by the flood waters. The rescue effort is continuing, and teams have already spent 2 days pumping water from the tunnel in an attempt to reach any possible survivors. They were cut off on Monday night when a part of the mine caved in because of the downpour. Ghana is the leading producer of gold in Africa, but accidents are frequently happening there, especially in small-scale illegal gold mines. But government has been trying to crack down on illegal mining, especially in the southern part of the country. Now, joining us on NC Continental Prime this evening to talk about this development in Ghana is Upper East Region correspondent, Joy News, Albert Sore. It joins us on NC Continental Prime. Hi, good evening to you, Albert.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us all the way from Accra. Now, 9 miners had died. That was what the information that was provided to us as at press time. Is there any updates on this?
Okay, so I'm joining you from Bolgatanga in the Upper East region of Ghana. I'm in the regional capital. Now, so just to give you an update of what's been happening, listening to the story that you have, the update I can give you is that at 3 a.m. today, more than 48 hours at that time after this accident first happened, rescuers were finally able to pump out the water that, submerged the tunnels, and they found some of the bodies of the miners. Now, 9 miners, were found. They actually drowned. So they were found dead. Their bodies were recovered from the tunnels and brought out. The bodies were almost decomposing. So police did not waste so much time in letting the families identify these bodies, and the bodies were released to the families for burial. The other thing is that 3 of the miners who, based on the accounts of those who were around the mine at the time, these other miners went underground. 3 miners are still unaccounted for, and as we speak, the rescue team led by the Ghana Police Service and the National Disaster Management Organization and the Minerals Commission are still working to see if these people, if they are alive. Chances are they will be dead, but if they are alive, then they can rescue them. Otherwise, if they can find their bodies, then the bodies will be retrieved from the tunnels. So that is the state of this accident. One of the things that have also happened is that the Upper East Regional Minister, who is the political head in this part of the country, visited the area. And, after talking to the small-scale miners, and getting to know exactly how this accident could have happened, is setting up a committee to investigate, and so that based on the findings of this commission, the government can decide what to do in order to prevent another occurrence of an accident of this nature.
Now, that brings me to this question, Albert. It's not the first time it's happening. Is there anybody that is in charge of regulating the activities of the mining in Ghana, and what is being done to curb the illicit mining in the country?
Yes, so in this particular incident, what the regional minister tells us is that these people are licensed. The concession where they were mining is a licensed one. It has a known owner, and it is a registered mine where they were working. But it is a small-scale mine, and so the safety precautions normally with mines like these are not as strong as the safety precautions are with bigger mining organizations. So for instance, I was at the scene yesterday when they were still looking for the bodies, and you will find that normally they drill pits, and then once they get to the place they need to work to look for the rocks where they can extract the ore and look for gold, they then create tunnels. Now, the National Minerals Commission is the regulating body that regulates these people. But like I said, with small-scale mines, the safety precautions are not that great. So accidents like this tend to happen sometimes. This is not the first time, I should say, that an accident of this nature has occurred in this particular area. About a year or 2 ago, there was a similar accident where the miners actually attempted to blast rocks.
Thank you very much, Albert Sore. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for keeping us updated on the situation with the miners in Ghana's Upper East region. We do appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
Now, we did update you on the story breaking in Algeria, where there's a bounty on the head of Al-Qaeda in Algeria. The terrorist organization designated by the United States Department is offering a reward of $7 million for information leading to the location, identification of Al-Qaeda's North African region branch leader, Algerian Abu Abayada. Okay, we have joining us tonight to unpack this is Algerian journalist and managing editor at Atlas Times, Amor Shabi. A very good evening to you, Amor. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, could you tell us, let us into the activities of Abu Ubaida Yusuf al-Anabi in the North African region?
Yeah. Now, first of all, this came as a surprise to everyone who follows the activity of the jihadists in the North Africa region and subsequently in the Sahel region, because in recent times, no noticeable activities or big activity or big actions or big presence of these groups is noticed in the region. And now when the State Department, the U.S. State Department, put this bounty of $7 million on the head of Abu Ubaida Yusuf al-Anabi, who is the current head of the Akim region, the Al-Qaeda in the so-called Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb region, that made some surprise to everyone who follows the evolution of the activity of the jihadist groups in the Sahel.
Why do you say this is a surprise?
Yeah, because in recent times we haven't seen much activity or much actions of this group on the ground in the Sahel region, in northern Mali and Niger, and in Burkina Faso, in the triangle between the three states. We don't see much presence of the Al-Qaeda group led by Abu Ubaida Yusuf al-Anabi, this man who succeeded to the former leader of the group, the Algerian, also Algerian, the Al-Qaeda leader of in the Islamic Maghreb. These groups are now a minority group, and they formed an alliance with the group that supporter of the Islam and the Muslimin, led by the Malian Iyad Ghali in some 2 years ago. And on the ground, there is no much presence. That's what surprised.
We've seen the United States Department issue bounties for terrorists. It's not the first time they're doing it in different parts of the world. Do you think this $7 million will help in tracking him down? Would he yield any results?
Yeah, in some way, I think that will put a tight grip on the activities of the leaders of this group. But in reality, it's hard to predict what the outcome will be, because in the past we saw Americans put bounties on heads of several jihadist activists on the Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, in Yemen, and so on. But they didn't yield really much more results.
Okay, now we've seen a sort of pattern when it comes to some of these jihadist groups. Most times, the locals and natives, where those groups operate in their locality, they often help them with support. You know, they provide intelligence and what have you. Is this the same case with Abu Ubaida? Does he have local support in Algeria?
Because what we know now, the group is located in the northern Mali, and is in unfriendly terrain. If you say the ground is not his home ground, they are first of their appearance and their existence was in northern Algeria. Now they are in the far south in the Sahel region. They managed to have some alliances, some tribal alliances, and some narco-trafficant alliances with the groups that are activated from traders and illegal traffickers and illegal traders in the Sahara, in the vast Sahara Desert, and that stretched from Mauritania in the west to the Chad in the east, and further beyond in southern Libya. That's a very vast territory, and these groups are, in my view, managing to have alliances between them, such groups, not with locals. Locals are said to be somehow in distance with these activities or these groups. They are gaining their foothold on the ground is due to majority of foreign fighters. They import
Thank you very much, Mr. Amor Shabi. We do appreciate your insights on the subject matter. Thanks for talking to us in NC Continental Prime.
Thank you.
Now, moving to West Africa, the Nigerian police force has paraded about 84 arrested criminal suspects. The suspects belonging to several criminal gangs were paraded for various crimes ranging from kidnapping, murder, banditry, aiding and abetting crime and others. Police say the arrests followed extensive investigation which revealed they were complicit in various crimes. News Central correspondent Amadine Uyi reports.
On display were several high-profile weapons. Many of them were seized from these criminal suspects being paraded by the police. The first public relations officer, Frank Mba, says that about 84 suspects were arrested after extensive investigations by the police. One of those paraded included transnational kidnap syndicates that were recently responsible for the kidnap and murder of an aide to the former governor of Sokoto State, located in Nigeria's northwest region.
They operate essentially between the borders of Sokoto and Niger Republic, and they have carried out several operations on both sides of the border, qualifying them to be described accurately as a trans-border kidnapping syndicate. He said that they carry out a robbery operation in Niger Republic where they kill 3 people. Why are you saying? He said in the operation they carry out in Niger Republic, they shot them dead. That's the victims. They used their firearms together with the syndicate members.
Also paraded was another kidnap syndicate responsible for manufacturing number plates used to help criminals beat security checkpoints.
A total of 80 plate numbers were recovered from them, and a lot of these plate numbers, apart from regular plate numbers, are very special plate numbers. From diplomatic numbers such as the United Nations, to the presidency, to other specialized plate numbers, and of course other regular plate numbers were recovered.
I started this work no more than 3 years now. I've been collecting plate number replacement. I'm the person that used to do the map work, the artwork and the number.
So how many have you done so far?
It is not much. Now this year I joined.
How many? Can you estimate like how many?
It will not pass 100 since January.
January which year? What year?
2021.
The police assured that it will continue to work with relevant security agencies to ensure that crime is eradicated in the country.
We will work with our counterparts from the Federal Road Safety and other relevant agencies to ensure that this is conclusively dealt with.
From Abuja, Amadine Uyi, News Central Television.
You're watching NC Continental Prime and News Central Television. We'll return with more stories from the African continent after the break. Stay with us. The Chadian government has received a donation of vaccines against the novel coronavirus from Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinopharm. Chinese ambassador to Chad, Li Jingjing, at the N'Djamena International Airport, where the donated vaccines arrived, says the vaccines should be a public good. The Chadian Minister of Public Health and National Solidarity, Abdoulaye Saber Fadoul, who was also present at the airport for the arrival of the donated vaccines, thanked China for all the demonstrations of solidarity shown towards his country. Through these donation of vaccines and many batches of medical equipment offered since the start of the pandemic. The vaccination campaign in Chad is expected to start Friday, with priority to be given to health personnel and the elderly, according to the Chadian official. In West Africa, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says no COVID-19 related deaths was recorded in the last 24 hours. The total number of fatalities in the country remains 2,099. The NCDC also confirmed 25 new COVID-19 infections, bringing the total number of cases in the country to over 166,000. The new infections were recorded in 5 states. The NCDC says of the new cases, 10 were recorded in Lagos, 9 in Taraba, 3 in Kaduna, 2 in Rivers State, and 1 in Kwara. According to the NCDC, the latest report includes a backlog of data from Taraba State from the 21st of March to date. You're watching NC Continental Prime. It's still ahead. A labor market crisis created by the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. We'll tell you who said that and why after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. The labour market crisis created by the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Unemployment growth will be insufficient to make up for the losses suffered until at least 2023. This is according to a new assessment by the International Labour Organization, ILO. The ILO's World Employment and Social Outlook Trends 2021 projects the global crisis-induced jobs gap will reach 75 million in 2021 before falling to 23 million in 2022.
What our report does is to set out in really quite detailed terms what COVID-19 has done to people's working lives in the course of 2020, and it's been a dramatic story, we know that. And then, and I think this is perhaps more important at the current moment, look forward for the next couple of years, 2021, 2022, saying, well, at a time when we're thinking about recovery, well, what really does this recovery look like and what does it mean for jobs and livelihoods? And I think we've done it in quite detailed and convincing way, there's a lot to worry about, because the first thing to say is even on a optimistic scenario, the build back over the next year and a half until the end of 2022 is simply not, on current trends, going to restore the damage done by the pandemic. We'll still fall short by a large number of jobs. The second thing to worry about, and it's perhaps even more important, is the unevenness of the impact that the pandemic has had. It's hit the most disadvantaged, the most vulnerable, in countries and between countries. So what we're seeing is that the bounce back in labour markets, already apparent in some parts of the world, that's going to be stronger and better in the high-income countries. Why? Because they've got better access to vaccines and therefore are able to open up more quickly, but also because they've got more resources. They're richer countries. So the fiscal space, as we say, to support people and to support enterprises, to stimulate the economy, is that much greater. Whilst for the low-income countries, of course, they're disadvantaged in this regard. So contrary to what we saw, for example, back on the financial crisis, this is a recovery process that runs the risk, unless we take the right action, of making existing inequalities in the world of work, and they're very, very big inequalities, even worse. And we have to have a different way, a different trajectory of recovery, what we call a human-centered recovery, so that we don't see this increase in inequality. We need something which leaves nobody behind and provides greater equity of advantage in the world of work.
Soweto is one of Johannesburg's most well-known neighborhoods and is home to some of the city's most well-known tourist attractions. So whether you're interested in the history to be found at Vilakazi Street or you want to jump off the colorful cooling towers, the neighborhood is a hotbed of tourist attractions. But the COVID-19 pandemic has seen tourist numbers decrease drastically, forcing those working in the tourism sector and the neighborhood to learn to adapt to new conditions.
They used to come from all around the world to take in Soweto's sights and sounds and jump from the famous cooling towers. The towers are a well-known landmark for local and international tourists hoping to visit one of South Africa's oldest townships.
Soweto Towers is a big attraction, especially here in South Africa, in Soweto more especially, where people used to come only for historical tours and go to museums and things like that, which Soweto is known for in terms of the history of South Africa. So Soweto Towers brought a different view, another angle to look at in terms of tourism in Soweto and in Gauteng in general, where now people come to Soweto for adventure tourism, you know, and being the only spot that offers these kind of activities in Soweto, so it was quite an attraction, and it brought a different dimension, as I was saying. So here, this is where people come to play.
Right next door to the Soweto cooling towers is Chaf Phozi, a popular eatery that serves barbecued meat known as braai or chisanyama. The venue allows patrons to enjoy good food, music and entertainment.
Chaf Phozi is one of the biggest brands that started in Soweto, and then it made all these other big places that are opening right now to see that we can do it in Soweto actually. But then Chaf Phozi is the mother of the Soweto big venues that used to have a big vibe in Soweto. Yeah.
And would you say that Chaf Phozi was started as a way to create a business opportunity through tourism in Soweto?
I would say that, because now most of the people who used to come here, they wanted, especially the tourists, wanted the Soweto vibe, the Shabin vibe as well to say. Fortunately, we've got these two towers right on us. They used to attract a lot of tourism to us as well.
But the COVID-19 pandemic had a devastating impact on the tourism industry in Soweto. South Africa's international tourism numbers dropped dramatically in 2020, taking a 73% dive as a result of the pandemic.
It affected our business in a big way, not only in terms of not having the numbers that we used to, but also the staff. I mean, at some point we had to close down for a couple of months when COVID started, so most of the crew were not earning at that time, and I've got 90% of the staff here, it's young people who, for some of them, is their first employment, because we employ a lot of young people. It's their first employment, and most of them are breadwinners. So then you find a situation where people are not earning anything. Psychologically, it's affecting them. So even when we had to open and start slowly coming back to work, we were not as how can I say, we were not running as normal, because the staff needs to also try mentally to get back to where they are, but the situation was very challenging.
Patrons have slowly started to return to Chaf Posi. The eatery is getting back on its feet, but is yet to see the traffic numbers that it saw before the pandemic. On the other side of Soweto, the staff at the Hector Peterson Memorial are also considering how best to do business in the new conditions.
Rock over there.
Yeah.
That rock over there, that rock represents the many stones that were used by the students in retaliation to the police. As you can imagine, students didn't have guns on them on the 16th.
Yeah.
The only things that they had at that disposal were stones.
Their main clientele used to be foreign tourists, but the museum has had to drop its prices to get locals to visit.
Last year was a very, very strange year in terms of tourism and all of that, because the museum had to close down such a way that we didn't have people around anymore. Basically, the museum became some sort of a white elephant. So basically, the previous year was hectic, to be honest with you. Before, the museum used to focus mainly on people coming from outside the country. So that's the reason why we had low numbers of people living within the country. But now, like I'm saying, the museum decided to reduce the fees so that we can accommodate locals. Usually we used to charge 36 rands, but now we're charging locals 20 rands per head. But the fees have been reduced. People find it affordable to visit the museum. So because of that, local people mainly are visiting the museum, and the numbers are sort of increasing in terms of visitor.
South Africa's National Tourism Department has said it will prioritize the local tourism market until the country's borders reopen. Tourists from the rest of the African continent are another potential growth area. More visitors are expected to travel to the area in the summer months of 2021 and 2022, offering new hope to those living and working in Soweto. For Jimmy Yangu, Candice Bailey, News Central Television.
Again, prices of goods in Zimbabwe are spiraling. This is threatening to halt a decline in consumer inflation after authorities last week forced businesses to stop quoting prices in US dollars in a bid to encourage more use of the faltering local currency. The Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries called for the immediate suspension of the regulations, which include jail terms and fines for businesses that refuse to comply. News Central's Tolulope Adeleru Balogun has more business stories for us.
Welcome to Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulope Adeleru Balogun. The International Finance Corporation has renewed its commitment to the liquefied petroleum gas project in Mombasa, Kenya. The IFC is involved with the Mombasa gas terminal for the development of a $23 million, about 2.5 billion Kenyan shilling greenfield liquefied petroleum gas terminal in Mombasa. According to the IFC statement, the project aims to support the LPG master plan for Kenya by addressing issues of supply and infrastructure in the port of Mombasa. The International Finance Corporation will issue a $5 million A loan to Mombasa Gas Terminal to start phase 1 of the project, which is the construction of an LPG import facility. The import terminal will have a private berth for unloading small to very large gas carriers, multiple loading gantries for the transfer of LPG to tanker trucks, and special LPG transport vehicles. Phase 2 of the project will involve the construction of an on-land LPG storage facility. Airtel Africa said it has sold its tower portfolio, part of Airtel Tanzania, for about $175 million. The deal marks the latest strategic divestment of the group's tower portfolio as it focuses on an asset-light business model and its core subscriber financing and facing operations. Now, Airtel Africa provides telecommunications and mobile money services with a presence in 14 countries across the continent. In a statement, Airtel Africa said the sale was to a joint venture company owned by a subsidiary of SBA Communications Corporation. The new majority owner, SBA, is a global independent owner and operator of wireless communications infrastructure. UK company Paradigm Infrastructure, which focuses on developing, owning, and operating shared passive wireless infrastructure, is also part of the deal. South Africa is seeking additional electricity from private contractors. This is another move by the government of Africa's most industrialized nation to address long-standing power outages. The government is asking companies it previously contracted to supply electricity from privately owned plants if they can sell more. The latest program is designed to run for 3 years and may benefit renewable energy plants that recently won the right to supply electricity. However, the amount of power to be purchased is yet to be determined. South Africa has been hit by intermittent power outages for more than a decade because the state power utility Eskom cannot meet demand. This year, the government tendered for 2,000 megawatts of power from any technology to be delivered by August next year and plans additional tenders for electricity produced from the sun, wind, and natural gas. And staying in South Africa, the country's Department of Communications and Digital Technologies plans to enforce local content quotas and other regulations on streaming services such as Netflix. Shola Sani, Netflix's Director of Public Policy for Sub-Saharan Africa, said that the streaming service is already investing heavily in local content in South Africa and fully intends to continue doing so going forward. However, Netflix has warned that its proposal is not feasible given the nature of the services it provides, coupled with the fundamental differences in the model and structure of global streaming services. The global streaming giant said that between 2016 and 2020, it invested an estimated 800 million rand in South African shows, creating more than 1,800 jobs in the process. Oil prices have pushed higher as negotiations over the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action continue to falter. This also comes as a rebound in oil demand from China, the United States, and Europe threatens to outpace planned increases in supply. The international crude oil benchmark Brent rose by $1.09 to trade at $71.34 per barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate gained $1.11 to trade at $68.38 per barrel. S&P Global Platts reports that any resolution on the JCPOA remained far from certain as the fifth and final round of negotiations proceeded in Vienna, putting into question the prospect of increased Iranian oil hitting the market. Crude oil prices were also supported by a strong demand outlook for regions undergoing economic rebound, including China, the U.S., and Europe. And that's business right here on NC Continental Prime. There's more news coming your way right after this.
And up next is Udoka Njoku with the latest sporting stories across the continent. Udoka, what's the latest in the world of sports?
It's majorly about the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, if it will be cancelled or postponed. But of course, the Tokyo Organizing Committee of the Olympic and Paralympic Games is pleased to unveil the items that will be used during the victory ceremonies at the Tokyo 2020 Games, with the occasion marking 50 days to go until the opening of the Olympic Games. Now, the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic podiums were created using donated recycled household plastic waste to help contribute towards a sustainable society. Now, Tokyo 2020 President Seiko Hashimoto noted that the hardships that the athletes have faced after the Games were postponed by a year, but of course he said that they were on the cusp of being able to compete. The Tokyo Olympics are scheduled to open on July 23 and the Paralympics on the 24th of August. Moving over to football now, Irish FA President David Martin believes the UEFA Super Cup will be one of the biggest matches played in Northern Ireland in recent history. It was confirmed on Thursday that the game between Chelsea and Villarreal, the champions of the Champions League and the Europa League winners, respectively, will be played at Windsor Park as planned on the 11th of August. UEFA considered moving the game to Istanbul as a compensation measure after the Champions League final was switched from the Turkish city to Porto because of coronavirus restrictions. Details on attendance and ticketing arrangements for the game are still being finalized, but Martin is hopeful that a big crowd can be at the National Stadium. Moving from there now, the World Rally Championship Safari Rally Kenya, the Greening Legacy project targets planting 19 million trees over the next 3 years. Over the last 2 days, some 10,500 trees were planted in Kakamega and Kisumu counties. Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, the Environment CS Keriako Tobiko, and WRC Safari Rally Kenya CEO Phineas Kimati led various environmental conservation groups in the exercise carried out in the two counties. Kimati said that the project had so far seen over 655,000 trees planted under the WRC conservation theme. The Greening project aims to commemorate the 19 years the Safari Rally was out of the World Rally Championship, and the latest planting took place at River Kibos in Kisumu County and Kakamega Forest in Kakamega County. Moving over to some football matters now, midfielder of Egyptian Premier League side Serge Aka has been rewarded for his remarkable performances once again after receiving his second consecutive Ivory Coast call-up for the national team's friendly in June. Aka has been active for El Gouna since June 2019 when he joined the club from Tunisian outfit Sportifs Sfaxien. And since then, the defensive midfielder has been an integral part of the El Gouna squad, making 63 appearances, including 14 this season. His impressive performances earned him a place in Patrice Bumel's squad for their games against Niger and Ethiopia in the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers back in March. The 26-year-old was summoned for a second time in a row by Bumel, this time for the preparations of the African World Cup qualifiers, which were postponed to October. Now, the Elephants had secured their AFCON presence after winning Group K in the qualifiers, having collected 13 points from 6 games. And the Confederation of African Football announced that South African referee Victor Gomez will officiate Al Ahly's game against Esperance in the Champions League. Al Ahly are set to face Esperance Sportive de Tunis in the first leg of the CAF Champions League, the semi-finals on Saturday, the 19th of June in Tunis. The Reds finished second in their group behind Simba SC and were drawn against a very tough Mamelodi Sundowns side who finished on top of their group with a 4-point gap in the quarters. Now, with 2 weeks left until the highly anticipated fixture, CAF have revealed that referee Victor Gomez will be in charge of the game. The experienced official had famously officiated last year's CAF Super Cup between Zamalek and Esperance, which saw the White Knights triumph. And that's it on Sport Update on NC Continental Prime. And I head back to Benga for the rest of the news.
Thank you very much, Udoka. Now, Forbes Africa has unveiled its 30 under 30 class of 2021. And impressively, Nigerian creatives made the list. The list of 30 creatives consists of Nigerian film producer Ifan Michael, American-based filmmaker Amarachi Nwosu, star singer Rema, PR guru Timile Bello and Temidayo Onyosun. Other creatives from across the African continent include South Africa's Cleo Johnson, Uganda's Brian Kakembo, Zimbabwe's Shekomore Timburwa, amongst others. And over to you, Samuel Ojo, for the rest of the entertainment news.
Thank you very much. And now to entertainment news. Nigerian rapper Falz joined his father, human rights lawyer Femi Falana, and other Nigerians to protest the spike in insecurity and poverty in the country. They took to the streets of Lagos on the 31st of May, where they marched from Ikeja bus stop to the governor's office through the secretariat to the Lagos State House of Assembly. The demonstration, tagged "Enough is Enough," lasted for several hours as youth carried placards which read "No to exploitation and multiple taxation," provide jobs or unemployment benefits for youths, provide security in schools, end kidnapping and banditry, and stop killings, secure Nigeria. While the lawyer-turned-rapper isn't new to fighting against social-political issues, he was one of the Nigerian celebrities at the forefront of the NSAS protest in Nigeria, alongside others like award-winning musician Banky W, Runtown, comedian Ayo Mako, to mention a few. Many also wouldn't forget in a hurry DJ Sweet's contribution during the fight against the NSAS police division. History has taught us that entertainers can use their craft as an instrument, both in entertaining and making a positive difference in the community and nation as a whole.
Extremely poor, and the medical facilities are poor. We operate a predatory neo-colonial capitalist system, which is founded on fraud and exploitation. And
money vanish from your office, 36 million, you tossing an animal. This is Nigeria, never any recession. When looters and killers and stealers are still contesting election. Politicians with thieves, some billion and billion, you know they go prison. Police station they close by 6, security reason.
Afrobeats pioneer Fela Anikulapo Kuti was a revolutionary voice and activist. Kuti used music to pass his message, inspire and shed light on the social struggles within the country, while contributing to the future of the African sound in many parts of the world. Kuti fought till his passing in 1997 at the age of 58. Until today, his legacy lives on through his children, some of whom till today are continuing to fight in their father's footsteps.
You Africans, please listen to me as Africans. And you non-Africans, listen to me with open mind. Suffer, suffer for world. Amen. Enjoy for heaven. Amen. Christians go they yab. Spiritum heaviness. Muslims go they call Allahu Akbar. Open your eye everywhere. Archbishop na mediki. Go na enjoyment. Imam na God.
Most recently, Files objected to a message sent out by the president himself, Muhammadu Buhari, demanding that the #1 citizen of the country must lead by example. This came after the official Twitter page of the president reacted to the burning of an INEC office in Imo, threatening those involved, making reference to the Nigerian Civil War, which rocked the country from 1967 to 1970. Whether or not it's entertainers' obligation to fight, their contribution towards the growth of the country is intricate and has proven successful in raising awareness and tackling problems in many areas. Well, that's all on entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
Cloudy, sunny, not sure what the weather will be like tomorrow. News Central's weather desk is standing by for updates on the forecast for tomorrow. And that's all on the news at this hour, but before we go, let's remind you of the top stories. A $7 million bounty placed on Al-QAEDA'S Algerian leader. 1,000 demands justice for victims of anti-government protest in Khartoum. And finally, we told you that 9 die in Ghana mine floods as rescue efforts continue. Remember to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch the news live on Star Times Channel 274 and Avo TV Channel 23 and YouTube and Benga Aboroa. Many thanks for watching.